false beliefs. What do we tell ourselves that is self-sabotaging, that is hurting our relationship, that's hurting our love life, and what can we do about it? Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. So happy to welcome back Junie Moon, the transformational coach and best-selling author of Loving the Whole Package, Shed the Shame, and Live Life Out Loud. Junie, thanks for being here again.
Oh my God, so happy to be here again. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to have you back. We just had a great conversation that we'll link to about, well, getting naked again. One of the big topics here on Second Act that hold us back to enjoy life, to be intimate again, especially when we're starting or looking for a new relationship. So what I want to focus on today is one of the things that you do in your work so often, or really focus on, is false beliefs. What do we tell ourselves that is self-sabotaging, that is hurting our relationship, that's hurting our love life, and what can we do about it? And I really want to start with your story because it so eloquently demonstrates how you gather those beliefs and then what they ultimately do. You're a very open woman, and one of the things you shared is really how from your parents, the messaging of your parents, who you love very much, how that stuck with you for years and years. So let's talk about that and see if our viewers can identify.
I'm sure they will a little bit.
Yeah.
We all had parents, or some extent parents and teachers and people around us when we were growing up, and we were sponges, and well-meaning parents and people around us wanted to give us how to be in life and how to succeed and how to stay safe and fit in and be loved. And they did the best they could.
Yeah.
And with that came a lot of beliefs, because they gave us messages like men might have gotten, be strong and, don't look weak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't cry. Or, young girls, be a good little girl, and be ladylike.
Mm-hmm.
Or we got shamed, that is not ladylike, or, don't be a pussy, it's like, so as we were kids, we were having all these experiences, and it shaped us. And it wasn't like consciously, okay, I'm going to remember this. It was programmed in the background. And so my story, and again, I wanted to say, I love my mother and I love my father.
Mm-hmm.
And it came with some stuff. So my mother, interestingly enough, was always praising me. She was always saying, you're such a little adult and you're so great at this, and was always propping me up. And then if I fell from grace and did something, oops, I would get a look. And in that look, I remember thinking, she doesn't love me. I better try harder to be perfect, because that's when I am loved. And same for my father. My father had, I felt like I was, the golden child on a pedestal. This story is a little different for me. And for those that are watching, see where the similarity is for you with my story, which is, he got sick, and he had cancer, and he ended up dying. And one of the things on his deathbed, like hours before he died, he wanted to give me as much advice as he could, which one of the things he said was, don't gain weight because men won't like you. And so I took on that belief and was like, oh my God, And so cut to the future, I better not gain weight. And oh my God, if my thighs are jiggling, which they always have, and they always will, I don't know, but most likely, I'm not going to be loved. And if I'm not perfect, I'm not going to be loved. And so these were just tastes. And then I brought all of that into my marriage. And for 20 years, I walked on eggshells, micromanaging everything, trying to be perfect so I was loved and not left, and trying to be the good little girl so that I also had daddy's love and wouldn't fall in his eyes. So these experiences give us information, and these messages run us when we least expect it.
What I find interesting is, especially when we talk about these kind of topics, when you tell your story, those specific examples, that so many memories go back in my head that I haven't thought about in years. And I'm wondering if our viewers are having that same experience. And with that, I want to ask you, you've worked with thousands of women. You've worked with lots of men. You focus a little bit more on women, but yes, men are certainly part of your overall practice. Are there themes? Are there what sort of beliefs, especially in our generation, do you see that are common, that are really affecting the way that we live and love later in life?
Yeah, good question. I do think it's different for men and women.
Mm-hmm,
However, at the core of it, it's fear. At the core
mm-hmm,
of it is people are afraid that they're going to be left or judged or
mm-hmm,
rejected or not good
mm-hmm,
enough. I truly believe that's the core fear.
mm-hmm.
With that said, women in general have a fear of I'm going to be too much, or I'm too emotional, or I'm not beautiful enough. Those are the biggest themes that I hear from women because that's what they've been told. Men in general, we're here
Mm-hmm.
are giving
Right.
messages of tone it down, or even in the profiles, they see don't want drama. Well, in
Yes.
my opinion, when I see don't want drama, it means you're not wanting to have a woman who has feelings, and may we learn
Uh,
how to navigate the emotions in a conscious, healthy way. That's, topic for another day.
right.
And for men, I see they just want to be accepted for who they
Mm-hmm,
are. And they
mm-hmm,
try so hard to be of service, and they try not to make mistakes. And I
mm-hmm,
think their biggest fear is not being good enough, in the sense that they're not able to rise to the occasion for
mm-hmm,
their partner, to be able to
mm-hmm,
be there in service in the way that they so desire. And women in general in the past have emasculated men and have made
mm-hmm.
men feel like they don't have value, and have been a little bit critical of men, or a
Mm-hmm.
lot critical of men.
Right.
And then that goes way back to when they were kids, when they were criticized or judged. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where it gets really messy.
Yeah, it does. It's very confusing, and it does, again, it triggers so much. And I'm looking forward to the comments on this. There's always so many great stories that come out of this, that that help other people too to hear this or really start thinking about yourself. So what specific things can we do about that to identify maybe what our false beliefs are, where they came from, and what to do about it?
Yeah. So the first step, I think, is to look at your life and see if you have any patterns you notice. Do
Mm-hmm,
you date the same person thinking
mm-hmm,
it's going to be different, and you end
mm-hmm,
up in the same relationship? Do you
mm-hmm,
say things that you don't necessarily mean, and you go, oh my God,
mm-hmm.
I can't believe I said that, or I can't
Yeah.
believe I did that. So what are some things that are happening in your life that are not in your highest and best of how you want
Mm-hmm,
to be? And it's
mm-hmm.
kind of happening by accident, not by choice. So look at your patterns first and notice, yeah, there's something that I
Mm-hmm.
do that causes me pain, or
Yeah.
blows up relationships, or gets in the way of good connection with my partner or my family or my
Yeah.
colleagues, and start there.
Yeah, you brought us something really important, I think. You said, look at, what am I doing that brings about this the same thing over and over again, instead of all men are the same and all women are the same, pointing outward, which we also get in our comments. And it really is about self responsibility and introspection, because you can only control what you do.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because looking outside and going, oh, she's this and he's
Yeah,
this, and that's why I'm feeling this.
right.
We got to slow that down. We have to slow that down. And maybe
Yeah.
somebody's behavior really does stink. And you can go, yeah, I don't like that behavior, but what's going on inside of me? Why am I reacting like this? What are my beliefs about that person's behavior?
Mm-hmm.
And then bring it home, because we need to take responsibility for what's going on inside of us. Why am I overreacting? Why am I doing things, to spite him? Well, he deserves this. It's like,
Yeah.
as soon as we're out there, we're lost. We are
Mm-hmm.
lost. And we're not going to get to the core of finding out what's happening inside of us so that we can actually change that dynamic.
It's interesting you say that. Again, we know what comes up in my mind What triggers you? And really recently I've had a few things that triggered me. I'm going, why am I started getting upset, or it's like, why am I getting upset about this? And then you start thinking about it, and then it makes sense. Where I still have trouble, and maybe some of our viewers, is what to do, how to get rid of it. It's like, okay, now I know that this action triggers me. It wasn't meant, I even understand intellectually that it wasn't meant to do this, but I don't know how to get it out of my head.
Well, and that's the challenge, I think, in most modalities that are out there is neck up. I understand what's going on. Oh, yes, my mother or my father was critical or abusive.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder I'm uncomfortable when
Mm-hmm.
somebody raises their voice. I understand that, but that's not going to heal it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why there's different modalities like shadow work, which is what I do, and EMDR and other things that are out there that get past the conscious mind and heal what's stored in our bodies
Mm-hmm.
from the past. So if we are triggered, if somebody gets under your skin,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody says something and you're in big reaction,
Mm-hmm.
there's something to look at, and it's not figure outable. You can't
Mm-hmm.
change it from here.
Mm-hmm.
You got to release it. You got to shift it. Because at the end of the day, something happens. There is a moment, maybe a fraction of a moment, but a moment to take a breath before you go, "Rawr." It's like, that just hit me. That just hit me. Okay. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? I need to step away right now, and I need to
Mm-hmm.
be with myself. I need to do some processing. We
Mm-hmm.
have not built that muscle. And when we can build that muscle up to even take a pause
Mm-hmm.
between what just happened and the reaction,
Yeah.
that starts to break the cycle. So that's one thing right there.
I've gotten to the pause. Yay, me.
Yay,
I have gotten to the
Suka.
pause, and then walk away, and that was a big step. And I think that's very practical advice, is the old think before you speak, or think before you act. Is there something practical you can share with us so we better understand that?
So one of the ways you can identify your beliefs is if something happens and you're
Mm-hmm.
having an experience or a reaction, to separate yourself from separate yourself from the person for a moment. Take a breath and ask yourself, what's the belief you're taking on by what they just did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was late. He said he was going to come home and have dinner with me, and he's an hour late.
Yeah.
And I'm angry. Well, again, he's late. What's the belief around that? Well, he
Yeah.
doesn't care about
Right.
me. He lies to me. He's having an affair on me.
Yeah. Yep.
I must not know something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm vulnerable. So when something happens, to actually take a breath and go, what's the meaning I'm giving it? And where might have I picked that up? Because it's not just what's happening there. If you're having a there's a saying, if it's hysterical, it's historical. So if you're
Okay.
having a big reaction, it's not the first time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's something really, somebody has a gun at your head, that you might have a
Yeah.
different reaction. But we're talking about just being a human being. So
Right.
yeah, track it back and go, oh yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And you brought up something else too, that depending on what situation you're in. Now, we're not suggesting that if you're in an abusive relationship or something, that this is your fault, or you figure out what you did. I mean, you just get out.
Yeah.
This is patterns that come up over and over and over again that are self-sabotaging. I mean, do you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for those that are in an abusive situation, I know that's an extreme and it's definitely a hot topic.
Right.
Why do people stay? Because
Mm-hmm.
those neural
Yeah.
pathways are
Mm-hmm.
deep. You don't
Yeah.
deserve anything better than this. This is all
Yeah.
you know. This is what you grew up with. And this is not a conscious thing. This is deep.
Yeah.
Deep pathways that have been created over time. And so the dismantling of that is a
Is
big deal.
So we talk a lot about that the result of all this, the false beliefs, we self-sabotage. Well, why do we do that? Why is there an answer to that?
Protection. And I know that sounds so simple, but it's protection. And it's twofold. We are born as human beings, and we have an old brain that says, don't get kicked out of the tribe, because if you get kicked out of the tribe, you're going to die.
Okay.
So that old brain is doing whatever it can to keep us safe and loved and taken care of. And as a
Mm-hmm.
kid, we need that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we won't thrive. The other piece is when we've been hurt, when we've had challenges in our life and we had our hearts stomped on, there's a part, we call it the risk manager in shadow work. This part's online going, oh, that really messed her up. That was so painful. Let's never have that happen again. And that part works hard to make sure you don't say things that are going to trigger people or be in certain relationships. And it sometimes overshoots, where then the things that kept us safe as kids sabotage our adulthood. Walking on eggshells when I was a kid might have worked really well, but in my marriage, not so much. And so we have to update the risk manager. We have to learn that this is a protective mechanism so that we don't get hurt again. However, we have to find that sweet balance.
That balance. Yeah, that makes sense. Our minds are so fascinating, aren't they?
I geek out on it every day. I continually learn, and it's quite a ride for sure. So
I agree. I agree on these sorts of conversations. I learn something new every day, or something is triggered that makes me a better person.
Yeah,
So
me too.
Thank you for triggering that in me. In closing,
in a good way.
Junie, in closing, is there any message around this that you want to leave with our audience? Anything I didn't ask that you want to make sure you leave behind here?
So many things, but I will be concise and and just say that healing is possible. I look at my life and I look at my clients' lives and how things have shifted so dramatically when people didn't have hope and I didn't have hope. I mean, seriously, the dysfunctional marriage I was in, if I can do it, you can do it. So healing is possible. Do not give up hope and just stay aware of the kind of life that you want and move forward step by step. It doesn't have to be jumping off a cliff either. I think people think they have to do these huge dramatic shifts. Just take a step.
That's a great
gentle,
point.
loving step.
What is a good step they can take today?
Take a breath. Take a breath and put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your belly, close your eyes and bless yourself. Love yourself. Just take a breath and feel this moment without all the memories, the future, the past, and just be. And your mind might go all over the place and just be. I think there's so much wisdom in just taking a breath and being present to this moment.
That makes so much sense. And it's such a hard thing for me to do. I'm working on that too, being in the moment. So Junie, thank you. It's just lovely to talk with you. You are such an interesting person. I'm going to link to our previous conversation, which you guys will love, I think. Junie's definitely out there in getting over some of her fears, especially a fear of getting naked. Junie, I will link to all of your information, of course, to your book. You have lots of stuff available online. People could get in touch with you directly. I'll link to that as well. And I look so forward to having you back again soon on Second Act TV.
Thank you.